When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be confusing. Like Swedish techno confusing.
Bark, bark, meow, meow. Dance with me, purple cow. Bark, bark, meow, meow. Ooh, you lovely cow.
Geico makes it easy. With 24/7 access, all you have to do is go to Geico.com and you could save money on car insurance. It just makes sense. Unlike,
Dance with me, purple cow. I like your moves.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Shadow Travels. As always, this is your host, Kevin. I'm hoping that Ray will be able to join us in a little bit. He is running late tonight. We do have a great show for you tonight, though. We have John Mimms, who is a best-selling author of paranormal fiction, as well as a former TAPS family tech investigator. So he's going to be joining us tonight and discussing some of the cases that he's worked on, as well as the books that he's written and what's coming up. And again, as always, please call in with questions for either myself, Ray, or especially for John. And you can call in at area code 516-387-1922. So let's go ahead and we'll bring John on now, and we'll get to talking to him. John, are you there?
Good evening. How are you tonight?
Good. How are you? Great. Thanks for joining us.
It was fine. Glad to be on.
Yeah, that's fantastic that you're able to join us, and this was very short notice, so I definitely appreciate that very much. My co-host is hopefully joining us. He's running a little bit late tonight, but I know that we do have some other people possibly calling in with some questions for you a little bit later. So, why don't we kind of start at the beginning, and I thought maybe we'd first talk about your experiences as an investigator and especially the tech aspect of everything. So why don't you talk about maybe how you got started in this?
Okay. Well, I got started in paranormal investigation not necessarily because of any experience I had. It was just, curiosity from, hearing reports that other people had experienced and everything. So I decided I wanted to get out and kind of look at the scientific side of it. And I joined up with a group here in Arkansas, and they happened to be a TAPS family member. And we had really good group. The training was paramount. I wrote a training manual for the group that did a comprehensive, in-depth training of all the equipment we used, investigation techniques, just everything from A to Z as far as paranormal investigation went. And go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, is that available to other groups, or is that just strictly for the group you worked with?
That was just in the group that I worked with.
Okay.
But we were really big on training, making sure everybody knew how to use the equipment, proper scientific method on investigation, because if you're not using the equipment correctly, obviously, or if you're not doing the right scientific method, your data that you collect is worthless. Mm-hmm. So that was...
And that...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to ask you, I was kind of thinking as you were saying that, a question I was going to bring up in a little while, but I was going to ask you, what do you find was the most inconsistent or incorrectly done method to investigating?
Well, there's a lot of groups that don't do baseline readings before an investigation starts. And, we would take temperature, EMF, you name it down the line, pollen count, things like that. And, if there was anything that happened during the course of the investigation, you would have a baseline to compare it to see if it's actually something out of the ordinary. But, I've been with a lot of groups that didn't do that. They just jumped right into it and, see what they could find.
Now, do you, I don't know if this is part of the technical manual as well, or if it's something that your group did, is there a particular, procedure from start to finish? You'd mentioned baseline readings, and what's the next logical step in investigating? Is there one, or is that kind of determined depending on your location?
after baseline readings. Everybody in the group, we would split into groups, and every person would have a different piece of equipment, and they would be responsible for logging any anomalies during the course of the investigation, that they read on their equipment, whether it's the Kestrel or the radiation detector, EMF meter, what have you. And that way, you may not experience anything, but you go back later, you check your recordings, find an EVP, then you have something to compare it to. See if there was an anomaly in the environment or something that could have caused that, or coincided with it.
What, as far as the size of your group is, I know that you don't belong to it anymore, but did it start off as a big group, or was it just a few of you?
We started out with about 6 people, and I guess at one point we were up to a little over 20 probably.
Wow.
And it got to the point where, some of these locations we go to, they're not conducive to having a big group, so we'd have to split up,
Sure.
People take shifts on when they go on an investigation.
Yep, that makes sense. I know that we've run into, our group is relatively small, but even with a group of 5 or 6, there are some places that really don't need to be investigated by more than 3 or 4 at a time. They could be that small. What did you usually find was your most effective piece of equipment when you were out there?
Well, I would probably have to say the EMF meter, because we've debunked many things with the EMF meter. Anybody that's done paranormal investigation knows what kind of effects, EMF, people on the shows and everything, they use an EMF meter like it's a ghost detector. But
right.
more times than not, there's some kind of naturally occurring or man-made EMF in the area that's causing a psychological effect on whoever's experiencing the phenomenon.
Sure. Absolutely. What do you put, I want to hold off on EVPs because I know that you have some great stories about a couple of them, that you have some pretty amazing EVPs that you've captured. So looking at, say video evidence first, do you put a lot of stock in both regular video as well as your standard pictures, or do you kind of shy away from those?
I kind of shy away from them. Nowadays, stuff like that is so easy to fake. I mean, there's... And besides that, I have all the video, all the pictures that I've taken on the course of these investigations, I haven't seen anything that I would consider paranormal.
Okay.
Seen a lot of orbs, but I don't know what you're doing.
Well, I'm more towards I don't rule them out completely, but I'm more towards the dust, particle, water spot side of things.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when you go into a really old, dusty house, how many quote-unquote ghosts you pick up in there.
Right. I will say that I think, our group has not been around that long. We've been around about 2 years. I think we've legitimately captured, in my opinion, 2. And one was actually on video. And we made sure we really went over that again and again and again and again. And it just so happened in that particular piece of video, we initially wrote it off as a bug. And then a bug happened to fly by, and it was not the same thing at all as the orb that we saw. So, that was pretty interesting, and we really couldn't chalk it up to anything else at that time. So we did just capture that one on video, and we have one still picture that I would consider is a pretty good candidate for an actual orb. But everything else over the course of 2 years, I think, can be explained away.
I'll say I haven't seen anything. There was one orb picture that was captured at an old Civil War battlefield that had a reddish tint to it. We ran it through the thermal imager, and it seemed to have a heat signature to it.
Really? Wow.
We can't explain why, but because most orbs it's just a flashlight. There's no heat to them, but this one
sure
had the red aura and everything like you see on the thermal camera.
And that was right out on the actual battlefield.
Mm-hmm. It was during the day too.
Oh, really? Wow. That's amazing.
It was a cloudy, overcast day, and
so there really shouldn't have been. There's really no sun affecting it. Wow, that is pretty impressive. It's now the EVPs they've captured. Like I said, you have captured some pretty awesome ones. I'll let you kind of tell your stories about them, because as every investigator knows, there's always stories behind the EVPs, especially where they're coming from or who may be speaking. So let's start. What do you think is your best one that you've ever captured?
Well, as far as EVPs go, I think they're the most compelling evidence. You can write off photographic anomalies, you can write off EMF spikes and things like that. It's kind of hard to write off a voice that's clearly saying something.
Absolutely.
There's been, I've captured several over the years, but probably the most compelling one was there's the old tuberculosis sanatorium here in Arkansas. And it's a huge place, creepy, just like some of the ones you've seen on TV, probably in these investigations.
Sure.
And when we were there once before, we were in a hallway upstairs, and we captured what looked like the image of a little girl dancing around in the hallway.
Okay.
And her, I'm kind of setting up the EVP here. She looked like she was dancing in the hallway. Her body, or not body, but the temperature of whatever this was just slightly colder than the air temperature.
Right. Okay.
And our investigators walked out there to where she was, and we were kind of directing him. He walked through her, and his heat signature disappeared.
Wow.
As he walked, whatever this was.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was like walking through a deep freeze.
Jeez.
Okay, that having been said, we were there a couple of months later, and we were in that exact same location. And we're doing an EVP session. We were, nothing had happened. We were breaking down. I was unloading film or replacing film in my camera, and we happened to leave the digital recorder running while we're doing this. And all of a sudden you hear this little girl start singing. And then right near the end of it, you hear her say, "I'm down in this room."
Wow. Jeez.
There was no children or anything.
Right. Right. And did anybody go down there, or did you leave it? You didn't listen. You didn't hear that until during the review session.
Well, I didn't hear that until the next day.
Right. Right.
But it was very compelling that we'd seen a little girl there before, and then to pick up an EVP like that.
Now, let me ask you, and this is more of I guess maybe it's more of a personal question, but what program do you run your EVPs through when you go to analyze them?
We usually use Audacity.
Do you? Okay, that's the same one that we use. Yeah, I'm not too good with it. I'm not a super tech person like yourself, so I do my best to try to clean them up as best I can. But I'd be happy, sometime in the future, if you want to email me any suggestions on how to do that, that would be great. So
there is.
I didn't know if go ahead.
There's one compelling thing that we I don't know, other groups may be aware of this too, but that we kind of noticed about EVPs is when you're looking at the graph on Audacity as it's playing,
right.
Whenever you pick up an EVP, it's usually below the 20 hertz range.
Okay, I have seen that. Yep. Go ahead.
20 hertz the human ear is incapable of hearing anything below 20 hertz, and the human voice is incapable of uttering anything below that.
So then
the digital recorder can pick it up.
Then that'll give you a really solid indication that you've caught something then, without a doubt.
Well, a lot of times, if you can look at the graph and you can tell where something may be just by the, where the graph is.
Right. Okay. And then there's ways to, but most of the time just by looking at that. Sure. Now, aside from the tuberculosis sanatorium, is there another location that you've been to that you really think is well worth visiting or well worth a continuous investigation?
We've been to some private residences that, we had caught some interesting EVPs and things like that. We've investigated a World War II submarine that's docked in downtown Little Rock. That was an interesting experience.
Oh, wow. Let's talk about that. That must have been fascinating.
Yeah, it's the USS Razorback. And to make a long story short, it was in the American fleet during World War II. It was in the Bay of Tokyo when the peace treaty was signed with Japan. And after the war, it served in Vietnam, and then the American government sold it to Turkey.
Okay.
And then Turkey was getting ready to scrap it about 15 years ago, and the city of North Little Rock found out about that, and they offered to buy it and bring it over here because it's the USS Razorback, and if you know the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Right,
so,
sure. Yeah.
But, yeah, that was a really, really cool thing to do. Even though Turkey had it, it's basically just like it was during World War II.
Right. And were you
we didn't.
Go ahead.
It was really hard to say because there's some of the old, I would want to say paint that they used on the dials back then.
Right. Yep.
It was luminescent, so it was glow in the dark, but it's also radioactive.
Oh, okay.
So our radiation detector would go crazy when we're down there.
Sure.
But other than that, we didn't really experience anything. It was just, that's one good thing about paranormal investigation. You may not see or experience anything paranormal, but you get to go to some pretty cool places.
We say that all the time. That's become our motto on our team, I think, is that so many of these places we probably wouldn't have ever gone to if we didn't start doing this.
Yeah, you get a backstage pass.
Absolutely. What's your opinion on Obelisk? I don't know, did your team use one?
Obelisk?
Yeah.
That name doesn't ring a bell.
It's like the spirit box type.
Oh, the one that scans random radio frequencies?
Yes.
Yeah, we call that the ghost box.
Okay.
But it's picking up radio signals.
Right.
So to me, that kind of contaminates it from the get-go. Because you're going to hear random words and things like that. Some of them might make sense to the question you're asking, but I think it's my personal opinion. I just think it's too random to.
Right. Okay.
We got some interesting responses with it.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say we got some interesting responses, but nothing I would call just incredible.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's on a side note. You had already mentioned the TV shows. When we do our public investigations, that's something that we always make sure we tell everybody is that 90% of the time we're on these investigations, nothing happens. And what you see on TV is essentially an hour at the most of possibly a 12-hour investigation, or maybe a couple of days worth of an investigation.
I think it's more like 98% of the time.
Yeah, it seems that way sometimes, definitely. So what do you think when you were out doing the investigations with the team, whether they were a residential place or they were more of a public place, what was the most difficult thing that your group seemed to encounter with, I guess, the general public?
Well, as far as difficult, we went to a homeowner's house where everybody was having a party one night. It was the homeowners were drunk, so that didn't go over too well.
Yeah, we've run into that. Now, as a member of the I was just going to say, as a member of the Taps family, I know that there's certain regulations that the team had to abide by.
Mm-hmm.
So you were kind of held to those, right, by the main group.
Right, and the reason TAPS does that is for, you in scientific research, you got to be able to have repeatability.
Right.
And so, to give the data any validation. So if everybody's not doing it the same way, then the data doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
exactly.
That's what was good about being in an organization like that. It's because supposedly everybody was doing it the same way. So you could compare and contrast data like that.
Which obviously makes complete sense. Have you traveled out of state a lot to do investigations, or did you travel out of state a lot, or were most of them done right within Arkansas?
Most of them were done in Arkansas.
They were.
We had some invitations to go out of state, but we never ended up going to any of them.
Okay.
Arkansas has got some pretty good areas when you consider Hot Springs and Eureka Springs and
I know I'm gonna forget the name of it, but isn't there there's a very famous hotel down there, isn't there?
The Crescent Hotel.
I don't know if yes. Have you been there?
Yeah, well, I have been there and I have gone around it and looked at everything, but it's next to impossible to investigate it anymore because the hotel does ghost tours every single night of the year. And very, very lucrative business. So, for a paranormal group to get in there and check out anything, can't really do anything with these tours going on.
We run into that same problem up this way with a couple places. There's some places I would definitely like to get into, but exact same situation. I think I don't know if I want to say they overcapitalize on what they have going on, but maybe that's the right way to put it.
Well, it's when investigated. I kind of led to a big influx of people going there.
Yep, exactly. And I'm I guess you could say by day, I'm a history teacher, so I love, like we had mentioned before, being able to go into all these places for the historical value. And sometimes it really frustrates me that a place will kind of overlook that in order to make money off of their supposed paranormal activity.
Funny you say that. My wife's a history teacher.
Is she really? That's high school? Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
So that's definitely, I love going into these places and seeing them, because maybe I would get to them if I didn't do this, but, having children and being busy, I probably wouldn't. So it's a great opportunity. I absolutely love it. So we'll talk a little bit about your books now, because we definitely want to discuss those. Did you leave the group in order to go ahead and begin writing? Is that the reason why you stopped investigating?
It was just kind of a natural thing. The group, different people have their own things going on in life, so everybody just kind of went their own way, and there wasn't an official closing down of the group or anything. It was just, we kind of just gradually did less and less until everybody's kind of doing their own thing now.
Okay. And so, what made you start?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so what made you start writing?
Well, I have always been a reader ever since I was a little kid, and there's just, I guess when I was doing the paranormal investigation, something just sparked my imagination. And I've actually written 7 novels now. 3 of them are published. And all of them except one have paranormal influence.
That's fantastic. Is it, I guess, how should I ask this? Is it easy to write about the paranormal without getting overly technical?
Yeah, the current novels that I have out, the Tesla Trilogy, the basic premise of the book is based on law of thermodynamics, that energy can't be destroyed or created, it only change forms. I don't know if you read the synopsis on it, but a cosmic storm moves over the Earth, and the energy from the storm causes all the people who remain behind to become visible all of a sudden. And it creates an uproar, both the religious community, politically, and everything. And it's, I think it's kind of interesting and kind of scary when you see what the government can potentially do in certain circumstances.
Right, absolutely. And those are the trilogy books are the ones that are the best-selling books?
Mm-hmm.
And they're available, you can get those at a bookstore or only online?
Most bookstores carry them, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can get them on iTunes, just all the usual places.
Does writing come easy to you? Or is
stories do. Writing, it is a craft that you have to work on, and I've been doing this now, I guess, seriously for about 7 or 8 years, and it's amazing to go back and see what I wrote. Actually, it's embarrassing to go back and see what I wrote 7 years ago compared to the way I'm writing now.
Yeah, but everybody's got to start somewhere,
that's
right?
The one thing I've had to work on is the writing, but the stories come easily to me.
Oh. Oh, that is
Matter of fact, one of the novels that I'm editing right now is not published yet. It actually has to do with the paranormal group, and kind of the drama and other stuff that can happen in a group. But it's also a suspense thriller.
So there's more of a in that case there's more of a personal element in it, I suppose.
Yeah, the Tesla Trilogy is more of a science fiction fantasy. This one is kind of a little bit more down to earth, and you were asking me about the technical stuff earlier. This has more of the technical things of investigating in it.
Okay, great, that makes sense. Sure. And are you planning on? Is this something that you're going to keep doing? You're going to keep writing?
Yeah. I'm going to keep writing. Like I said, I've got, besides the one I just mentioned, I've got 3 other novels completed, and it's just a matter of going back and editing them when I get time. It's kind of hard when you have a day job to come home and edit.
Absolutely. It sounds like, though, I mean, that's incredibly successful. I saw some of the reviews. I looked at some of the reviews, and you have some big name publications and publishers that have given great reviews to the books.
Yeah, I was not only learning my chops when I first started, but I didn't know anything about the literary community, nothing. And my agent called me one day and said, "You got a Publishers Weekly review. You got a Publishers Weekly." I was like, "Is that good?"
I saw that.
I had no idea, but evidently it's like the Sports Illustrated of the literary world.
Yes, it is. That's fantastic. That's got to make you feel really good, without a doubt.
Currently, Marie D. Jones is working on developing the trilogy for film and television. So hopefully that'll come to pass very soon.
Wow, maybe you won't have to have a day job anymore pretty soon.
Well, we can only dream.
Yeah, right. I wanted to shift gears again, and we can talk about whatever, whenever, because like I mentioned to you, it's a very laid-back show with what we talk about. There's an area that we have not branched out into yet as a group. We do have some people that are interested in it, and we may branch out into it, but do you have any experience with cryptozoology type things? I know that in Arkansas there's a couple of legends about, say, like Bigfoot type creatures down there. I
have not personally done any investigations, but I know Ken Gerhardt. I've met him at a few the shows we've been to, and he is, I guess he's one of the top in this field right now. And I find the whole topic very interesting and fascinating, but I have not personally participated in investigating it.
So I'm curious as to what your thoughts are. We have one guy on our team who is very, very much into Bigfoot and Sasquatch. That's kind of his niche. What are your thoughts on it? Is it a possibility that something like that could exist?
I think there's something to it. When you look at the fact that Native Americans wrote about it, and then people, modern times, are seeing the same thing. I mean, there's obviously something to it, but then on the other hand, as much as man has ventured out into the wilderness, why haven't we found any definitive proof yet? Exactly.
And I imagine that's your same take on pretty much anything that's cryptozoological, like a Loch Ness Monster type thing or anything like that.
One of the novels that I wrote that I've still got on the back burner for editing it right now, but it has to do with cryptozoology being interdimensional. That's kind of the premise of this book.
I was going to bring that up because we had somebody on the show a few months ago who actually brought that topic up to me. I don't know if you're familiar with Mary Marshall. I think she's known as a paranormal PhD. And we got into this discussion, and she brought that theory up to me. And I had never thought about that before. So go ahead and talk a little bit about that, because I find that absolutely fascinating, that idea.
Well, it's a very long novel. It's actually my first one, and it's the longest one I've written. But just not to give too much away, there's another dimension that kind of coexists with ours, and they have rifts every once in a while that these creatures stumble through, whether it's Bigfoot or Loch Ness Monster or a Chupacabra. Of course, I give all of them different names in this book, but you know what they are.
Right.
And there's a group of people there that they're a kind of subservient group, and they're called the Rounders. And their group, they take these saucer-shaped craft to track down these animals once they stumble through a breach and bring them back.
Ah, okay. That theory is, very, to me, as far out as it sounds, it's also very believable, I think. And I was just going to ask you to apply that same theory to ghosts and entities, but I see that somebody called in with a question, so I'm going to switch over to them. It's actually April, who does one of our other shows on here called Freaks and Geeks. That's her show that she does, but I'm going to switch over because I think she has a question or two for you.
Okay.
April, are you there, April?
Yes, I'm here. Hey, John. How are you?
Hi, April. I'm just fine. How are you doing?
Good. Really good. Hey, Kevin. How are you? Good to talk to you again.
Good, April. Yes, definitely. It's been a while.
Yep, definitely. Hey, so, John, I have a couple questions. Just wanted to kind of know, since we are so close to Halloween and you are so close to the paranormal, and obviously you're a very well-known paranormal author. I've kind of been looking over your books here. I just wanted to know, what was the most, dare I say, hair-raising experience you've ever had on an investigation?
Well, there's probably two of them that are probably pretty close to each other, and both of them happened at the tuberculosis sanatorium I mentioned earlier. The first one, we were meeting another group from Texas there, and they got lost, and so the group had to leave to go find them and bring them in, and since I was the tech manager, I got left there to guard the equipment. And so I was there by myself, and nobody in the building, completely empty. We had already scoured the building, and I started hearing this awful moaning, like this woman was in severe pain. And I walked out in the hallway, and I heard it again, and it went on about 3 or 4 times, and finally it just went away. But it was the scariest and saddest thing I've ever heard in my life. And right down the stairs from where that room was, there was a room where they did experiments on the tuberculosis patients. and there were some pretty medieval experiments they used to do on them there.
Wow, that's the kind of thing that chills you right down to the bone.
Yeah, and then the second thing that happened was it was on the third floor of that building, and it was that same night, and I was leading a group from Texas, and I had a thermal camera, and I was pointing it down the hallway, and they were kind of in a semicircle standing in front of me, and I was sitting there looking at the screen on the thermal camera. All of a sudden, somebody grabbed me by the elbow and jerked me backwards, and I spun around expecting to see one of my team members playing a joke with me, and there was absolutely nobody there.
Wow.
And then the next thing I knew, my elbow felt like I just dunked it in ice water. And we actually went back downstairs to the base and used a thermal camera. My elbow on my arm was about 15 degrees colder than the rest of my arm.
Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible.
But that one I didn't find scary. I thought that was fascinating.
That is fascinating.
I might have found it scary if I'd been by myself, but
right.
Yeah, I think one of those, it just kind of I think it's one of those scenarios that happens where it just all of a sudden kind of, jerks you almost into reality, into realizing that although these beings have left their corporeal forms, they still very much have physical impact. They can actually affect their physical surroundings. That's really intriguing. That's really awesome.
Yep.
So what is it that you say to naysayers? So, like, if somebody comes up to you and they say, oh, you believe in ghosts, like, why do you believe in ghosts? What do you tell them?
I don't believe in ghosts. I'm out there searching for proof of what this is. I mean, without proof, which nobody has any kind of definitive scientific proof, without proof, how can you believe in anything like that?
Right.
I think everybody that's doing legitimate investigation, I think they all have the same attitude.
Yeah. That is a very good answer. I always get asked that question, and I just really never know what to say. The first thing is, well, I'm a skeptic, so, it's just a matter of trying to discover the world around us. But in all reality, I feel like there's almost no way that you can gracefully answer that question when you're faced with it, but you managed to do it. So thank you very much for that.
Not a problem. I have my personal beliefs about, religious beliefs about the spirit and things like that, but, what these paranormal phenomena are related to the spirit, it's anybody's guess right now.
Yeah. We're working on it,
And I was just going to ask you, John, and you might have just answered it right there, but I was going to ask you what you attribute the EVPs to. What's your theory on? We talked a little bit about how they show up below the range of human hearing and below the audible range for speaking. So, where are they coming from?
That's the $1 million question right there.
Right.
That's I've heard theories like we're picking up a random radio broadcast or something like that. That's why a lot of groups will use a Faraday cage for their digital recorder. But when it's a specific answer or a specific situation, something like that, I don't see how it can be a random radio broadcast.
Right. I agree.
You're talking about the interdimensional stuff. I've heard that theory too about it. So the jury's still out on it. It is, to me, it's the most fascinating piece of paranormal evidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And like I said, we have gotten quite a few of those, and I think that's, as far as our team goes, without a doubt, those are our best examples of our evidence as well. And April, I know that I didn't mention this to John, but you're also on the team. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Mhm. That's what I always point to whenever we're showing people things. And we had this one really great EVP session. We were in the Boxwood Inn in Newport News, and the Boxwood Inn was owned by this woman at the time who it had been her family's dream to own a bed and breakfast. And right before they did it, they had 2 sons, and both of them were chefs. So right before they actually took ownership of this huge bed and breakfast, unfortunately one of her sons was killed in an auto accident. And so it was a really big blow to the family. And she thought that, his name was Chad, she thought that he was still with them. And so we conducted an EVP session, and we actually picked up his voice, which we were able to really, lend some strength to, because we had a lot of his voicemails and stuff that, of course, the family had kept just to listen to his voice. We were able to almost confirm that is his voice, and we were able to pick him up saying, like, "Hi, Mom, I miss you." And, of course, there's not a dry eye in the room. Everybody's crying at that point, but It was very powerful. It was really intense.
Wow.
It's
very rare to get more than 1 or 2 words on an EVP, too.
Yep.
Yes.
And it was very clear.
Sure.
It was Class A all the way. It was very, very clear. Since then, we've been back there, I'd say maybe 20 more times, and it's every time we go, there's really good stuff. So it's.
Did you say that was in Newport News?
Yep, Newport News, Virginia. You're over there.
Been there many times. I've never been to the house.
Yeah, that's where I am. So hey, if you're ever up my way again, give me a call. We'll go hunt somewhere.
I try to go to Williamsburg every couple of years, so.
Oh, good. This year they're actually doing something really cool, really new. This is the first year that they're actually allowing people, in fact, I think it's this weekend that they're doing it, they're allowing people to do paranormal investigations inside the historical buildings all night. Like if you buy a pass,
really?
It's $150. Yep, it's $150 a person, but that gets you into a dinner. There's a dance or some sort of revelry. I don't know. There's something going on. But I know that there's like a 3-course dinner or something like that, or who knows, something fancy. But after that, you actually get to go spend the night in the actual buildings. So first time ever, it's called The Haunting on Dog Street. So
I gotta
look out for
I
that.
knew they had ghost tours there, but I've never heard of that before. That sounds cool.
Yeah, this time they were opening it up. It's really cool. I didn't get tickets, but I know a lot of people that did, so I'll have to wait and see if it's worth the $150 or not,
I have to save up my money for that one.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't believe that hasn't sold out already, something like that.
Yep. I'm sure it is at this point, because I think it's this weekend. There's a lot of festivities.
That is very cool.
They're going to do like videos or movies on the lawn. They're going to do a whole bunch of stuff all weekend, like Halloween related.
Speaking of stuff like that, John, down in Arkansas, is there anything that you would, and I guess this is kind of a shout out too, but is there any event like that you would recommend that you think is a good, legitimate event for paranormal investigators to go to?
There's nothing that really a location here puts on. Like when I was in my group, we would make arrangements with the tuberculosis sanatorium, and we would do a fundraiser for them and sell tickets and give them the money, because this particular place has still some function today, not tuberculosis wise, but there's some office buildings behind it where they keep people that are wards of the state.
Right.
And so we do fundraisers for them occasionally. But no, I'm not aware of anything besides, like we're talking about the ghost tours at the Crescent Hotel or anything like that. I'm not aware of anything beyond that.
Now I get to throw out my questions to you that I'd love to ask all the investigators that we interview from all over the country. My 2 big questions. My first one is, where is your dream location to investigate? It can be anywhere in the U.S., it can be anywhere in the world, but where is some place that you want to investigate more than anywhere else if you had the chance?
The White House.
Good answer. We've never gotten that answer before.
I doubt
what do you think about that? Yeah, and I don't think any of us are getting an invite anytime soon. But What do you think about the rumors of being haunted?
Well, actually, one of those rumors comes into play in the Tesla gate.
Oh, okay. I don't want to ruin it then. I don't want to.
But it's, I guess Lincoln is what the most prominent one there.
Right. So my next question for you is, and sometimes people think this is a tougher one, and sometimes they can answer it right away. But what do you think is the most overhyped place or overhyped paranormal location? That gets more attention than it should, probably.
I hate to say this, but just speaking from personal experience, I'd say the Crescent Hotel.
Oh, okay. And is that because of the amount of activity, tour activity that's there?
Yeah, that, and it's really, really commercialized now. And they have people send in ghost pictures and stuff for a chance to win a prize and things like that. It's just,
okay.
It's all about the Benjamins.
And I'm kind of curious, in your opinion, does that, because I'd mentioned that there's places up here like that as well, do you think that diminishes any activity that's there? Do you think it's possible to have an over-investigated place?
I guess it's possible. I never really thought about that before.
I'm always kind of curious that we have a location here that we do quite frequently. It's a mansion, an old mansion over in the city of Syracuse, and we've gotten some really great stuff there, some really good, legitimate pieces of evidence there. But it seems like the more we go and the more we bring people, the less stuff happens, or the more public investigations they hold, the fewer things happen, to the point where it's, almost nothing at this point, or nothing that's really, can be considered good, legitimate stuff. So I'm always kind of curious about that, because I wonder about the big places. Our group has also had the chance to do Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia. It was one of our first investigations. We were really lucky to be able to do that. And I was so excited. From a history perspective, it's just amazing in and of itself. From an investigation perspective, being in a building that's 150-some years old and in this massive castle-like structure that's a prison, and being the only people in there was very, very cool, obviously. But we got very little evidence there, and I was very surprised at that. But you got to call them like you see them, and I got to thinking about it later on, and I think maybe that's what kind of sparked my question of, could you have an over-investigated place, because I know they do a lot of investigations there at the prison.
You didn't have anybody pull a dude run, did you?
What's that?
I said you didn't have anybody pull a dude run, did you?
No. No.
Remember Brian from Ghosthunters?
Yeah, I do. I remember that. We actually joked about that when we were there, too. I got to be honest with you, it was probably it was definitely spooky. It was definitely creepy, but I can't really say that it was scary. I think I was more in awe just of the building itself and the history that goes with it. And it's also, the city of Philadelphia grew up around the prison, so it's smack in the middle of the city now. So it's very, very difficult to keep out headlights. It's very difficult to keep out, any kind of noise of people out on the streets, car horns honking, any of that. So, that made it difficult as well. And maybe that made it less scary. But absolutely a cool place and worth investigating. But I was kind of surprised. At that. So
like the others,
what I want to do.
No other reason but to secure it.
Oh, absolutely. And, I can tell you they run a really good deal where if you are able to pay for a nighttime investigation, they give you free admittance during the day. So that's what we did. We all went in during the day. We toured it. We kind of planned out what we were going to do. we ran into Joe Chin from Ghost Hunters there. He was there with another group. So it was kind of neat to do that and to be able to be there during the day and get it all mapped out and plan ahead for our return that night. So the downside is they only let you investigate until midnight. So, you know, it's kind of hard with these so many of these puppets. What's that?
I said that's just when stuff gets cooking.
Yeah, I know. That's as a matter of fact, I think the two pieces of semi-legitimate evidence we caught were about 15 minutes before we left. So that's unfortunately they have some pretty tight regulations on it, and a lot of the prison is really in very poor shape. They're really doing their best to restore it. Some of it's not worth restoring, so there are pieces of it that are off limits just for safety reasons. You know, but without a doubt, even if you don't investigate, certainly a place, and your wife would love it too, from a history perspective. You know, an excellent place to go.
We're one of those nerdy couples, and where we go on vacation, we have to visit a historical location. Well,
I'm assuming you like history too, so at least you luck out. My wife doesn't like history, so I have to drag her.
Oh yeah, I'm a big history buff.
Yeah, so you lucked out big time with that then. So we're going to we'll start to wrap it up here a little bit early, so get ready for the next show. But what I'd always like to do at the end is give you a chance to let everybody know that's listening, and this will go on our YouTube page, so not only will people listen tonight, but people will continue to listen anytime they go to the YouTube page. I'll also post a link on our Facebook page probably tomorrow evening, so people will be able to go on there as well and listen to it. So I want to give you the chance to let everybody know if they would like to contact you by books or contact you for a speaking engagement or whatever that may be. You know, go ahead and pitch yourself and put that information out there.
Probably the best way to do that is just like you did through my website, through the contact section on there, or you can contact me through my Facebook page. Just either one would be great, and I'll promise to respond to you pretty quick.
And do you do book signings and do you do events?
I do.
Okay. And do you do speaking engagements as well, or is it just usually book signings and readings?
I've done a few speaking engagements. Probably the last one I did is I spoke to every librarian in the state of Arkansas down at Hot Springs, so that was kind of, I won't say intimidating, but it's an interesting experience.
I can imagine there had to be quite a few people out there. Wow.
Yeah, there's about 400 or 500 people there.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's better you than me in that case. So I thank you so much for, again, being on at short notice with us. So it was wonderful talking to you, and I wish you the best of luck with the books.
I really appreciate you having me on.
Not a problem, and definitely going to pick them up, and I think I'll start with the trilogies because I'm really interested in your theories and the stuff that we didn't get the chance to talk about. So I look forward to reading those.
Great.
All right. Have a wonderful night, John, and thank you so much again.
You too. Take care.
You too. Bye. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us. It was great talking with John tonight and learning about his books and especially about his technical expertise and his work with the TAPS family group in Arkansas. And thank you to April for giving a call in to talk to John and ask him a couple of questions. We will be back next week at our usual time, and hopefully we'll have Ray joining us then. So until then, have a great week, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be hard. Like early 90s heavy metal hard.
I'm yelling and screaming, and I'm loud. Roar!
Geico makes it easy. You can review and update your policy or report a claim on Geico.com or the Geico mobile app. Because shouldn't we all have a little less stress in our lives?
I'm not even upset about anything.